What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the shelf, and as you can tell, I am standing in front of the titular shelf, and if you've watched my channel for any length of time, then you probably know that that can only mean one thing, and that is, it is time to once again downsize my physical media collection. This is the third entry in what is now a series of videos where I go through my Blu-ray collection and make the tough decisions of movies that aren't necessarily bad, but are ones that I will likely never watch again, and therefore just need to go. Which brings me to some things that I want to say off the top. If you're a physical media collector and you're watching this video, I just want to make it very clear that I am not judging anyone who collects a certain way, or am somehow trying to, say that what I do and how I curate is the way that you should curate. We're all different. Our situations are all different. This is what works for me, and it's what makes me get the most out of my physical media collection. I also want to say that the movies that I'm about to go over today are not necessarily bad movies, although I do think one or two of them could potentially qualify. But the point is that, even though they're not awful movies, it's not like a half star or anything like that, the reality is, like I said, I'm not going to watch them again. And that's going to be a recurring thing. I'm most likely going to say that a half a dozen times throughout the course of this video, but it's just to kind of highlight my criteria and how I'm going to go about stuff in 2025 and into the future. So with that being said, let's get into the movies. And the first movie that I'm getting rid of today is Terminator Genesis. So I've said this before in previous videos, but I'll just reiterate it here. When I first got heavy into Blu-ray collecting in 2018, my main driving force was I wanted to build a big collection because that's what I was seeing online. And as a result of that, I bought a ton of movies that are ultimately the ones that you'll see in these videos where I eventually phase them out and get rid of them. And Terminator was one of them. I hit a point where I was trying to collect franchises. I wanted to have all the Alien movies, all the Predator movies, and all the Terminator movies, among others. And yeah, pretty universally agreed upon that Terminator Genesis, not a great film, right? I doubt I'll get much pushback on this. And this ties in with a talking point that I want to discuss in this video, and that is this notion that some collectors have that just because it's a franchise you like or a director that you like, that you somehow or for some reason need to collect every movie in that franchise or every film in that director's filmography. We're going to talk about one of those examples here in a moment. But in reality, if we're talking brass tacks here, I love Terminator 1, I love Terminator 2, you can take or leave the rest of the movies. Terminator Salvation has interesting things. It's actually trying new ideas. I'll always give it credit for that. And who knows, maybe that movie in a subsequent, Purge video, maybe that one will get the boot. It's very possible. Right now, I was able to conclude that Terminator Genesis, it can go. I watched this movie one time back in 2019, probably right around when I got it, and I honestly could not tell you much about this movie. I know it has Emilia Clarke. I'm pretty sure it's got the guy from Doctor Who. And honestly, this thing is just like a rehash of a lot of ideas. It does like the T-1000 again. It's just a soulless rehash, and it's not very memorable. And I know I watched it like 6 years ago at this point, but the fact remains, if it was a memorable movie, I would have probably watched it again since 2019. I think that big gap speaks a little bit as to the film's quality. Generally speaking, we like to rewatch movies that we like fairly often, and this has not even remotely crossed my radar as far as perusing the shelves here and trying to decide what to watch. Right? This is the furthest thing. So. Yeah, and I'm gonna get rid of this. I have no qualms with that. I most likely should have done it a long time ago. So, all right, next movie up on the chopping block here is Stir of Echoes with Kevin Bacon. Now again, not a bad film. I enjoyed watching it. I thought it was pretty interesting. If I remember correctly, this came out the same year as The Sixth Sense, which is unfortunate for Stir of Echoes because they're kind of playing in the same sandbox, but The Sixth Sense is, a way bigger film in the zeitgeist, and this movie is not. So Granted, it's got its cult following, and it's, you know, certainly a film that is, you know, deserving of merit. But, you know, again, I watched this not long ago, probably a year or two ago, and I don't remember much about it, if I'm being honest. And with that being said, I've never felt any desire to watch it again since. So, again, not a bad film. If you're a Stir of Echoes fan out there, don't get mad at me, but I'm just not going to watch this again. And that's just my criteria, man. There is 0 point in owning a movie that you're not going to watch again. You know, the whole reason that I love collecting physical media so much, as opposed to things like Funko Pops or, you know, anything like that, is that you can actually do stuff with your physical media. You can play your video games, you can read your books, you can watch your movies. And that's not to, you know, shit on anyone who likes Funko Pops. Collect what you like. But for me, if I'm going to collect something, I want to be able to get things out of it. And, you know, I have a handful of Funko Pops, but you can't do anything with them. They just sit there, right? So if you're not going to watch your movies, like, what are we doing here? You know, they take up shelf space. All you see 90% of the time is the spine anyway, right? So it's not even like I can show off the art unless I put it on an easel or something, which I'm not going to do. And yeah, that's just the sad reality, you know. Going forward, that is my #1 criteria. I only buy new films that I plan on rewatching. You know, even if it's a movie I really liked, if I don't see myself rewatching it, there's no point in owning it. All right, next up is a film called The Awakening with Rebecca Hall. This was a Big Lots purchase for me. I think I had heard about this movie and it looked cool. It looks like a horror film. I like horror films, right? So, you know, I probably bought this for like $4 to $6 at the time. Watched it once, thought it was fine. Haven't gone back since. But yeah, this is kind of feels like The Others mixed with like The Woman in Black with Daniel Radcliffe a little bit. I believe it has a twist that is fairly predictable. Yeah, not much to say about this one. Just a movie that's been taking up shelf space on the off chance that, you know, I'd for some reason decide to rewatch this, right? And that's the thing, is that as collectors, I'm sure we all have those moments where we look at our shelves and we know deep down, right? We know deep down, if we're being honest with ourselves, there are plenty of movies that I own, that you own, that you will not watch again. But for some reason, you keep them around just because you might want to watch it again one day. And it's honestly a ridiculous notion, because when I'm able to do the math and break it down, right, I can tell you when I bought a movie, I can tell you how long I've had it, how many times I've watched it in that time, and if the math ain't mathin', like the numbers aren't adding up, like I watched it once, it has a fine rating, and I haven't watched it in the 5+ years that I've owned it, that should honestly tell you a lot, dude. And I'm not saying that you need to watch your favorite movies, or even just movies that you really like, once, twice a year, nothing like that. But again, it's a feeling that we all have. And I know you guys know what I'm talking about if you collect physical media. Because the truth is that when you do decide to get rid of that movie, it might feel weird in the immediate, you know, time, but as time goes by and you get it off your shelf and you donate it or you sell it or whatever the case may be, very, very rarely will you find that you regret selling it. I think more often than not, you'll be glad that you got rid of it. At least that's been the case with me. The only times where I've regretted selling things are where it's a movie that I sold for a certain amount of money, and then I realized that the movie has gone up a lot in price because it's gone out of print or something like that. And I'm not a reseller by any means. I'm not in this for the investment side of things, but there is that side of you, the monetary side of you, where you're like, oh, I could have gotten more money for that. But at the end of the day, I just kind of get over that pretty quickly, and it's honestly not really a big deal. But I figured I would mention it because some of these do carry a monetary value. Some of them hold their value over time. Obviously, The Awakening does not. And that's the other thing. If for some reason I ever decided to rebuy this, I could do so for most likely very cheap. So it's really not like I'm losing that much if I ever was to decide to get rid of these movies, which today I am. All right, next up is a movie from Tobe Hooper. This is a Kino Lorber title, and that is I'm Dangerous Tonight. Now, this is a movie about a dress that a girl wears, and the dress either kills people or makes her kill people. It's a TV movie, it's super low budget, and it's honestly pretty bad. I'm not going to sit here and tell you guys that this is a good movie just because the director of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre directed it. And I think that's something that us collectors, it's a trap we fall into, where we like to buy up the films of directors that we like. Honestly, pretty understandable, right? Makes a lot of sense. I bought a lot of John Carpenter movies because I love Halloween. No fault in that, right? The reality is that not every movie John Carpenter has directed has been Halloween, and not every movie Tobe Hooper has directed has been the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And this is a prime example of that. This is not a good movie. I'm gonna be flat out with you guys. But yeah, I was drawn in. You know, I had even heard that this wasn't even all that good when I bought it, but I like Madchen Amick from Sleepwalkers and Twin Peaks. R. Lee Ermey is R. Lee Ermey. You got Dee Wallace and you got Anthony Perkins, and it's like all this horror royalty. It's Tobe Hooper. It's got a slipcover. Like, of course, why wouldn't I buy it? I think I got this for like $11, $13 on a Kino Lorber sale. And we, as collectors, we do this thing where we watch a blind buy, which this was for me, and then, you know, you watch it and then the credits roll and you're like trying to convince yourself that it was good so that you can justify the money you spent. And it's like such copium where we're like, yeah, this wasn't very good, but I got it now. Like, I'm stuck with this fucking thing. So, you know, I definitely did that with this movie, and not afraid to admit it. But, you know, it's time to get rid of it, man. And ideally, this will go to someone else who actually wants to watch it. I'll probably put this one up on eBay, because it is a Kino Lorber title, and it's got a slipcover, so I don't know. And again, it's not even about recouping my investment on these. I understand fully, 100% well, that on almost all of these movies that I get rid of, I'm not looking to make back my money, right? It's just not going to happen. The majority of these I donate to the local library, and then the ones like these that might command a $15 or more price tag, I either sell them on Instagram to some of you guys, shout out to some of you guys who have bought videos from me from past videos, or I just donate them, because I'm more interested in having the space than I am getting my money back. It's just not important to me. I knew what it was when I signed up. All right, we got 4 more titles here. I'm gonna try to get through these pretty quickly for you guys. Next up is Super 8. This is a J.J. Abrams film. And, you know, I rewatched this actually a couple nights ago because I wanted to make sure for this video that I actually wanted to get rid of this. And yeah, it turns out I do. This movie is not very good. You know, it's definitely just J.J. Abrams doing his version of E.T. and The Goonies and all that 80s Amblin shit. And, you know, it doesn't really have much of an identity of its own. And that's kind of a theme with J.J. Abrams as a whole. I mean, if you look at his filmography, he literally has not ever done a movie that is like 100% his voice, right? He's done 2 Star Wars films. I think he's done 2 Star Trek films. He did Mission Impossible 3, and he did this. Like, it's all just based on other people's shit. I mean, this is even produced by Spielberg. Like, it's very shameless, I would say. And the movie's just not very memorable. It doesn't have anything very interesting going on. There is an alien in this movie. Spoilers for Super 8. And the design of the alien's very, you know, derivative. The interesting thing about it is that Stranger Things basically would come along 5 years after this movie and completely take all this stuff that JJ was trying to do and actually did find a way to make it pretty interesting, despite the fact that it is pretty derivative. And Stranger Things wears that on its sleeve where, you know, this is kind of doing the same thing, but the end result is far superior in the case of Stranger Things than anything you get with Super 8. So apologies if you're a Super 8 fan. This movie's fine. I gave it like a 2.5 out of 5, so it's not dog shit. But again, I don't need to own it, so I'm getting rid of it. And it's honestly a beautiful feeling, getting rid of shit. I mean, let me tell you, it just feels great. It's very liberating once you can get past that threshold of being like, ooh, I might want to watch that again someday. Fuck that. You're never going to watch it again. And that's the reality. Sorry, I'm getting all hyped up here. All right, next up we got Pitch Perfect. I'm going to be honest with you guys, I don't know why I bought this movie. I was at a Goodwill one day, and I am in a movie Discord, and I had heard some people saying that this was a pretty funny movie. And, you know, I like Anna Kendrick and Brittany Snow, so I said, screw it, let me buy this. And, you know, again, perfectly fine movie, but it's very formulaic. Think of any movie you've ever seen where it's a competition of some sort and it's a team-based thing. And it's like a ragtag team of all these unlikely members, and they somehow overcome the odds and beat the team that wins every year. I'm thinking of like Dodgeball, Bad News Bears, Kicking and Screaming. Like it's basically just that with a cappella groups, and it's got some fun needle drops and stuff, but like, this isn't for me. I don't know why I bought this. I think I just went into Goodwill that day having already made up my mind that I wanted to buy something. And I think that's something that we all do as collectors as well, is we're just like, I want that feeling of coming home with something, even though I found nothing worth buying. We make these sort of compromises with ourselves where we're like, I guess I'll take it because I want to buy something. And, you know, I'm guilty of it. We're all guilty of it sometimes. So, all right, we got two more here. Next up is Wanted. Again, same old story. This was one I picked up very early on. There's a bookstore near me. It's a chain bookstore. And for a while there, they were selling used movies, Blu-rays, DVDs, all that cool stuff. So I bought a lot of good shit from them, but this, not one of them. This is a movie I remember liking, but the reality is it has not aged very well. It's got a lot of Dutch angles, and it's just kind of shot weird. It's got a very weird style to it. The action is like all these crazy cutaways. I'll try to insert some footage here so you can see what I mean if you haven't seen this in a while, like I'm sure many of you haven't, because this is not a movie that I think people are really watching that often. But I remember liking it at the time. I even played the movie tie-in game, which was cool, because they had a mechanic in the video game where you could curve the bullets, much like in the film, and it was actually pretty cool, and I remember enjoying that game. So I think I just did this thing where I convinced myself that this was a movie I liked, and I, again, bought this either 2018 or 2019, and I have not watched it until just a couple nights ago, and the only reason I did watch it is because I was convincing myself that I was going to get rid of it for the sake of this video, and sure enough, I did. So that just goes to show you guys that we all buy stuff that we literally just buy for the sake of buying. And if it wasn't for me making this video right now, I would probably have gone another 5 years without watching this. So, all right, guys, last one on the list. And this is actually a double whammy here. We got the Hollow Man 1 and Hollow Man 2 double pack. Now, don't ask me why. You'd have to ask my mom. Shout out, Mom. But Hollow Man was a movie that I watched a lot when I was a kid. I don't know why. This is not appropriate for children. Even more so than a lot of the other movies I watched as a kid, like Highlander and Mortal Kombat and Spawn. Should not have been watching Hollow Man. There's a lot of grapey vibes to this movie. It's basically a modernized, for the year 2000, Invisible Man, but Kevin Bacon is just like a predator. And honestly, I rewatched this one just last night, again, for the sake of this video, and I was like, yeah, like some of the effects have aged pretty well, some of the effects have not aged pretty well. The content of the movie itself has not aged well because, yeah, there's a lot of essay in this movie, and it's basically just like the worst person to become invisible becomes invisible and just takes advantage of it in all the absolute worst ways. And honestly, it just kind of left me with a bad taste in my mouth. I have nostalgia for this movie, but it's not like good nostalgia, and it's certainly not a good movie. It's a fine movie. I shouldn't say it's not good, because there is some merit to it, but again, I have an attachment to it, and that's why I bought it, because this was a movie I saw as a kid a lot. And I was like, oh, Hollow Man. You know, I probably picked it up off the shelf and said, oh, I watched this when I was a kid. Let me add it to my collection, even though, same thing with Wanted. I probably bought this 2018, 2019, and it has sat on the shelf ever since. And that brings me to Hollow Man 2. I didn't bother watching Hollow Man 2. I looked up some ratings for it. It is not a good movie, and that's the other thing I want to talk about here. In order to be able to make a definitive statement as to whether or not I want to keep this double pack, I was like, oh, let me watch Hollow Man 2, you know, just to really make sure I'm doing my due diligence. But then I was like, you know what? I only have so much time in my day that I can spend on things like this, and I don't want to waste 90 minutes of my life on a movie that I'm 99% sure is not good. And that's something that I want to encourage other collectors to do. Life is too short for bad movies. You don't have to waste your time watching bad movies. You just don't. And that was another liberating feeling where I was just like, you know what? I'm not going to bother watching Hollow Man 2. I know it's bad. I don't need to watch it to know that. I bought the thing for the first movie, which I thought that I liked, but it turns out I actually don't. I just watched it when I was a kid for some weird reason. And so yeah, this is a 2-for-1, baby. This thing is gone. I do not lament the fact that this is leaving the collection at all. So yeah, guys, rewatchability is the key criteria. All of these movies are either getting sold or most likely just donated. And it feels good, man. I enjoy freeing up space on my shelf. It feels good to look at my shelf and know that, you know, as I continue to purge the collection, what remains is just my favorite movies, the ones that I really value, the ones that are rewatchable. Because let's face it, there's no point in owning movies that aren't rewatchable. There's just not any point to it. And I don't care what argument you care to make, whether it's, sure, maybe your movie costs money and you don't want to, you invested a lot into it, whatever the case may be. But in the case of these movies, I cannot justify holding on to these. There's simply no need. All right, guys, so that is this episode of Downsizing My Physical Media Collection. Let me know what you think about it. Let me know what you think of my curation qualifiers, my criteria, if you will. How do you approach it? What do you look for in a movie? I think, the longer we collect, we change. We change as people. I'm not the same person that I was in 2018 as I am now. So, my priorities have changed. My values have changed. The reasons I collect have changed. And my collection needs to change as well in order to reflect that. And that's something that I would encourage you guys to do as well. So hopefully you guys got something out of this, and if nothing else, it was just entertaining. All right, guys, so that's going to be it for me today. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you haven't. We talk about new movies, old movies, physical media, and horror in general. So with all that being said, guys, please take care and watch more movies.